All right, so tools to grow your business. And a few high-level thoughts like I like to do, just kind of frame where I'm coming from, because I approach things different than some of you might, and so you'll understand that and you can treat it accordingly with yours. One, I'm trying so hard, I've said this before, trying to not say I don't have time, because I don't think that's a valid thing. You should say no often. All of us should say no more often. I'm very bad about not saying no enough to little projects we shouldn't be getting into, but I don't have time isn't accurate. If you're not in the hospital or not in prison, you have time to do whatever. So you just got to set priorities for you. So I was going to point to Brad Morrison, again, who's not here today, but his meetup is something I really want to go to. It's a high priority for me, but I never go because we have church stuff we do instead. That's a higher priority. It's not that I don't have time. I'm around on Wednesdays. I have a computer. I have time to go. It's just not a priority. And it's good to think through that lens a little bit. Things like saying, I don't have time to go visit my brother when he's sick. It's not a priority to visit my brother. Like, ooh, that kind of hurts. So kind of shifting things through that lens is fun. And again, as we talk about time management and stuff, that's an interesting lens to look through. I work hard on having internet access everywhere. I just bring a hotspot and use it all the time. Most of you can get Wi-Fi anywhere. There are ways to do some of this stuff offline, but I don't do any of that. Everything I have is pretty much an online tool and needs internet. So if you often are a place that just can't get internet, then some of these tools won't work for you. Or in fact, most of them probably won't. I also like these because they're more secure. With some of the stuff that's coming out lately, it's nice to, you're never fully secure on anything anywhere, but having my own Wi-Fi versus hopping out of the hotel or at Starbucks, you're a little safer that way. So I encourage little hotspots or at least tethering on your phone, make it a bit safer. And then the other piece that applies to me and to a lot of you is Chromebooks. Everything we're going to talk about today you can do on a Chromebook, meaning you can also do it on Windows or Mac, but I try my best not to use any proprietary software anymore just so I can use it on any computer. The example is FTP, as I've talked about before. FileZilla is on Windows and Mac. There's no good solution for Chromebooks yet, but other than that, everything else we can do on there. People say the big rub against Chromebooks is you can't do anything without internet, but that's true of Macs and Windows too. I mean, you really can't do much without internet anyhow. Yeah.
Basically, it's a Chromebook, irrespective of who's
Essentially, yeah. Software-wise, they are. I mean, there's certainly faster ones and slower ones. This is a slightly better one. We have the cheap ones at home. Google has the new Pixel books that are super fast that I want, but yeah, software-wise, it's just Chrome. It's all the same. Yeah, so there's some things you can do offline. It's certainly a lot of work you couldn't do on a Chromebook, especially if you're a designer, but for the tools today for growing your business, it's all stuff that you can do. As long as you have internet and a browser, whatever kind of computer, it'll work. So let's dig in. So finding and tracking leads, that's the first section I want to cover. And again, as we go through, please stop me along the way. We'll have time for questions at the end, but it's easier, I think, to answer some of them as we're in the midst of that topic. So do stop me if you have questions along the way. One we've been using lately is ActiveCampaign. Any of you guys use ActiveCampaign? No one? Really? Wow, it's getting to be pretty popular. I consider it kind of a little bit better than MailChimp, but not quite as good as HubSpot, and pricing kind of falls in line with that. MailChimp is great and probably an adequate solution for most people. ActiveCampaign just goes a little further with the inbound marketing pieces, particularly the tracking. If someone fills out a form on your site, you can go back and say, oh, before they filled out the form, they looked at our About page, and they looked at our work, and kind of go back and see the history of a person before they fill out a form, and get some good stuff out of that. Again, solid tool. Pricing ranges from 10 to hundreds a month, depending on what you're going on. If you have MailChimp, you're probably fine there, but it can do some neat things. And then again, HubSpot is kind of the big daddy to this, but that gets into the many hundreds a month to even start. So ActiveCampaign is worth checking out. It's one we use, but again, lots of other good options. Contextually, I love. I've talked about this before. I've written some posts about it. It's one I use personally. We don't really use it as a team for reaching out to people I haven't talked to in a while. It's kind of its main thing. And contextually, you get all your contacts in there. We'll talk about how I sync all my contacts into it and put them all in buckets. So it took me weeks and weeks and weeks to do that. But every person you say, Matt is a coworker. You can go to Jeff is a colleague of WordPress. This person's a client. Rose is a friend. You can put them all in different buckets and say, okay, my coworkers, I'm going to see, so I don't worry about that. The people I know from meetups, I want to make sure I talk to every 3 months, say. So if I don't see Jeff for 3 months, it'll bubble up and say I should reach out. Clients, I want to make sure I talk to every 2 weeks. You can just set up different categories, and then every day you log in, it's going to say, hey, here's people you should probably follow up with. You say this person's a client, you haven't talked to him in 3 weeks, you might want to reach out. And so you can either say, oh, actually I did talk to him, but a lot of times it's a good reminder to do that. Joel?
Nikki, why do you like this better than a group in a CRM?
Most CRMs don't have the proactive notifications like this.
Pops up?
Yeah, where it pops up, it'll know, it looks at my email, it connects to my email, so it'll say, oh, you emailed with Joel today, so cool, I'm going to push that one down. But then if you don't email again for a while in 3 months, then you'll pop up. So it's not just a group that you look and see what's going on, it's every day, it's saying, hey, this person from that group, I know what you've talked to them about or not talked to, and it brings up, so every day you get just a list of things you should follow up with, which, now granted, I'm not as good about actually using the lists and following up, but we'll talk about that later too. But What's that?
You still have a
Oh, well, that's not me. So I'm like, yeah, that's a screenshot from then. I'm like a C right now, so it's not. Yeah, thanks for trying, but yeah, I'm average, so it works out. Actually, I haven't looked in a few weeks, so maybe a little worse, but yeah. But it's good. But it's a great tool. A little expensive. I think it starts at like $40 a month, but it does a good job. And it is a CRM, and it's meant to be a full CRM. But the one feature that makes them stand out is that feature. The only other one I found that could do that, and actually switched to them briefly and ended up going back, is Cloze, C-L-O-Z-E. Very similar, where you can track people in it, and it'll pull them up proactively. It's not as slick as Contactually. It seemed a little buggy at times. It did a pretty good job, but I just like the look and feel of Contactually better. And it seemed to integrate better with me. But Cloze is a solid one. But in all my looking, those are the only two CRMs I could find that had that proactive notification thing, where it would encourage you, like, hey, you should reach out to this person or this client and do that kind of thing.
If you check out HubSpot, if you have, what do you think about it?
Yeah, HubSpot. So yeah, HubSpot has a free CRM, and it's a great CRM, but it doesn't do this piece.
Can you integrate those?
Why though? I mean, these are CRMs as well. So I mean, I'm sure you could, but there's not much value there. So yeah, lots of good CRMs. Yeah, HubSpot has a free CRM if you need something just to track all your clients and stuff. That's a free, good way to go. But these go a little bit deeper with stuff. Another one we've used, last one I'll show you, does not have that. It's called ProsperWorks. What I liked about ProsperWorks is their opportunities, their deals pipeline. Feels kind of like Trello, where you can kind of drag, like, okay, I reached out, I followed up, I have a meeting set. We kind of set up our channel for how we sell and could drag people across. Other ones do that as well. This was just real slick. This is the only one Google recommends. It's like the official Google partner. It's actually Google brought their Gmail add-ons out Tuesday, where you can actually integrate stuff into Gmail, which is pretty cool. This is the one CRM that does that, so it's neat. Again, the reason I left those, they didn't have those proactive notifications, and that's really all I used. With this, it would end up just sitting, and I wouldn't use it. It's a fine system. I just didn't ever use it much. So, but it's worth checking out. It's real slick, works great, hooks into your contacts real well. And then Full Contact. So this is just a pure contact management database. I love this one. It doesn't have any groupings, doesn't have any of the other stuff like a real CRM. It's made just for managing your contacts. Where I like it is I have a Gmail account and a G Suite account, the Google Apps, and I have bunches of contacts in both. I want them to be the same, because the Gmail's on my phone for phone numbers, and if someone emails me here, I want it to just be one set of contacts. And this lets me do that. It lets me sync my two Google accounts together. Then I can also sync it with Contactually. I can sync it with ProsperWorks. I can sync it with ActiveCampaign. I can sync, so all my contacts are everywhere, which works out well. I mean, if I add a contact to any system, hey, when they call me, it's in my phone too, and I'll see their name on here, which means I have a very comprehensive list in my phone. If I get a number that pops up that doesn't have a name, it's almost certainly someone I've never met, because I've got it in there somehow. And what's real neat too is they've added a Teams feature not too long ago. So if all my contacts, and then they call it Full Contact here because it's their teams. Ours says Green Melon. And any client I add, I can say, add this to my team. And then Allie has her set of, she uses this as well. She has her contacts and also the team ones. And so all that syncs to the phone. So if I add Josh to it and say, okay, Josh is a Green Melon person, then Allie say, cool, it'll sync to hers, and now your info's on her phone when it calls. So it's kind of nice. If she finds out, your mailing address, so we can send Christmas cards, whatever, she can add it in, and it syncs across to both of our devices. And it does a real nice job. There's other products kind of like it. What I like about this one is that you can actually work in their interface. There's another one called PieSync that does a good job, similar things, but it kind of works behind the scenes. You can't actually manage contacts in it. You manage them in Google, and it magically syncs it over here, which is fine. But I like being able to go in here. This is kind of our main place we add people. I go in here, I can edit David, save the changes. It's just nice to be able to work on it in there and just know that it's going to go out to the world in a matter of minutes to my Contactually and all that stuff.
Quick question for you.
Yeah.
Does this work seamlessly across the world of Apple and Windows? And also, many of the apps I found you end up with 10, 15 replications of your
Every contact, yes.
Because it's you got it in different domains.
It was a mess to get cleaned up initially, and it has some tools to help, but there was a lot of duplication. I spent hours when I first got it set up. So I had them in 17 different places, and this kind of synchronized them and fixed some duplicates, but made a big mess too. So it took time to get it cleaned up, but for the most part, yeah, they integrate with dozens of different providers. So like Allie, my coworker, is on iPhone and Mac and stuff. I'm Windows and Android, and it all. Again, it's not about Windows and Mac so much as it is synchronized with Apple Contacts and Google Contacts,
yes,
and,
right.
So it does all that stuff. Yes, it does pretty well with that. So.
But at first you may have
you'll
several hours cleaning up.
Correct. Oh yes, yeah, absolutely. No,
Does
no.
it stay clean once you've done it?
Mine has, yeah. It doesn't. I mean, because again, that becomes the master record, so there's not going to be other junk getting in it. So, yeah, it does a good job once I get it there. But it is messy to get started, especially if you're like me. I ever had my Google contacts, my G Suite contacts, my contactually stuff, just all this junk. And so I synchronized. It did pretty good, but there was still a lot of. I ended up going through the whole list, just making sure everything looked good, which maybe was overkill. But now I have a beautiful, clean set of contacts. So
On the systems that you integrate with, do they integrate back to that and use that list, or will
it's just a two-way sync. So they just talk to each other, and if you add one here, it syncs it over. If you add one here, it syncs it over. It just, yes, two-way sync.
So it gives you flexibility where you add the contact. Further,
Correct.
after you have this set up, then when you added a contact, you can add it to Google. You
Right.
can add it to here,
Correct.
you can add it.
I still tend to add it here just so I can see what I have. It's easier, but in theory, yes, it all syncs two ways and does a good job. So, yes.
How do you back it up?
It's essentially backed up because it syncs into my Google contacts. So if full contact goes away, it's all in my Google contacts. You can I usually back up from Google contacts. You can export that as like an XML. Periodically I grab that and just throw it to the side just in case. But in theory, if they go out of business tomorrow, it's all still in my Google contacts and stuff. So I have it there. I guess the one concern is if their system goes haywire and erases all your contacts, and it's going to synchronize erasing them everywhere. So yeah, I mean, I've not had any issues like that, but yeah, having backups is always good. But I would just pull it back up from Google because they make it easy just to export that file and pull it out. So yeah, so good stuff there. I think for some of the syncing, I do use PySync still, that one that's invisible, because this doesn't sync to everything. So it's a bit messier. I can send out a slide with more info I've had in the past showing the full setup, but this does most of what you need. And again, the team stuff they've added is brilliant. That's been awesome for us.
What's the cost of it?
Cost is like $10 a month. I've got costs written out for a lot of these tools and not that one. So, but it's something like that, something like $10 a month, depending if you do the teams or how it all plays in. But it's not too bad. So Asana, we'll talk about Asana a few times today. This is from the viewpoint of finding and tracking leads. That's still the section we're on. So in Asana, what we have, Asana, if you're not familiar, is just a task list system, basically. You have projects set up, and inside each project, a list of tasks. Works well. So we have a project called Leads, and inside of there is a whole bunch of individual tasks for each of the leads we have coming in, and you can set up little categories for each one. So we kind of do this kind of like in Contactually. We had the different columns of a contact, they've reached out, we've had a meeting, they signed a contract. We just do it in Asana and say, we've reached out, they've contacted, we've had a meeting, whatever. Mostly so it'll just be in where all of our other work is. We're not having to check another system for it, because really, those are almost overkill. So this works well, and the beautiful thing in here, we make sure, if Allie or I pull up the leads document, we make sure every task in here has a date and a name. So that way nothing falls through the cracks. We know that every lead will follow up on. Because I'm sure you've all seen it where you say, hey, we're going to meet next week. Does next Thursday sound good to you? And then you never hear back. You got to make sure you stay on top. Say, hey, just checking in. How about Friday? And so we have these tasks in here that just bubble up. I say, okay, I'm going to email Josh and see if he can meet next week. But I'm going to set a reminder for myself for Monday if I haven't heard back yet to reach out again. And, easy to stay on top of things.
Do any of those, the ones that you've already gone over, will they take into account, are they like behavioral based, like based on the contact performing a certain action? So as opposed to, okay, X day from now, we're going to do this, versus X day from the prospect doing this, then we're going to do this.
Some of them can, yeah. I think, gosh, which one was that? I think maybe Contactually can.
Okay.
I've seen some of those that can say, yeah, once they get to this phase, if you then haven't heard from them, once they've hit this phase in 8 days, then do something. You can kind of set it up a little bit, but I've not done much of that. Again, that's all great. We just have, our projects tend to be pretty big, so we only have maybe 20 leads at a time. It's pretty much the same list month to month, kind of tweaking a little bit. We're not like again, I want to use Brad Morris as an example with his maintenance. He has hundreds and hundreds of clients because they're small. And so for us, it's so few, I'd prefer just to keep it where I can keep a hand on them. Whereas for Brad with a ton, it might be easier just to have it a little more automated and set up some magic like that. So, but Contactually, I think would be your best bet for that, but I'm not quite sure.
I did realize with Asana that you can make things contingent, like this can't happen until this happens.
Right, off another task,
that's
yep.
a premium thing, so that could be maybe a segue to what you're looking for. You know what I mean?
Yeah, that's a good thought. Yeah, very good. So that's what we use Asana for that. Again, we use Asana for everything, and I won't get too much into it today because it's not about about that. But in terms of tracking and finding leads, we found it's actually working pretty well just to make a little simple project in there for it. And instead of all these big systems that do it, it works well. So we have that. And they do have the Trello style view in Asana where you can set up columns and drag tasks across. They have that now in Asana. We just, again, this is just simpler, gets the job done. I just check it periodically, make sure everything has a name and a date on it, and I know that, cool, I'll get notified in my main task list when it's time to do something. And then the last one in this section is FreshBooks for our accounting and invoicing and all that. It works great. Maybe not the best choice out there anymore. It's certainly fine. I don't have anything bad to say about it. We're in it mostly because we have years and years and years and years of history in it and invoices, and it's all set up and recurring stuff, and that's the biggest reason. There's Xero, there's Harvest, there's a bunch of other ones out there. What do you guys like for this kind of thing? What was the one you talked about?
Wave apps.
Wave apps, there you go. What else? What are you on now?
FreshBooks.
Are you on FreshBooks? I thought you had switched to something. Okay.
No, well, I have Billy that I was going to try out, but it's really hard to make that jump.
It is, yeah.
You know,
Oh, we've looked at
it's
others, yeah.
Such a great workflow.
Yeah.
You gotta like, is that worth my time?
Yeah. That's kind of why we've stuck with it, basically. And again, nothing wrong with it. It's just, there's that, like Harvest.
I did find out that if you don't like the classic and you're wanting to onboard people onto the old, like the new one, because
Right.
it doesn't take PayPal.
Right, it's still
or-
missing a lot of stuff,
Right,
yeah.
but if you're a reseller, you can onboard people onto classic.
Oh, interesting. Okay.
Yeah, found
Interesting.
that out recently.
All right. Very nice. Well, yeah, for us, I think Harvest may actually work better because it has time tracking built in, which would be great when playing with time tracking tools. But not any good though. Yeah, Harvest is better. But so we're looking at third-party tools for that, and that'd be Matt can give a whole talk on that later because he's been living in that world for a few weeks.
Just found a good one. I thought we were happy.
Yeah, I think we are. I think we're good now. No, we're good. No, we're good. I'm not saying. Yeah, we're not going to switch. We're good. So the next section I want to talk about making email easier. We all, whether we want to or not, live in email all day long. So just some thoughts and tools and ideas. And again, I want to hear your thoughts on that. My biggest one, for most of you probably know, is Inbox Zero. Just keeping it cleaned out is so much better than having chaos in there. And the key is really a mindset. I could talk about this for a long time, and I don't want to, but the basic idea of Inbox Zero is every email has something you need from it, so mine what you need from it and then get rid of it. Add the task to your calendar, add it to your task system, reply to them, forward it, delete it, whatever, and move on with your life. Yeah.
Why do you have a hashtag reply to? Like,
That's just a category I had. Early on, they sorted alphabetically. You couldn't rearrange them. That's from like years and years ago. So that was mostly if I was on vacation and I wanted to deal with stuff when I got back, I could slide it there to again keep my inbox cleaned out. And then when I got home, I'd move it all back in and deal with it. So yeah.
I didn't know if there was a slick trick with
No,
the hashtag.
no, that's just a yeah.
Okay.
But yeah, so really it's just finding that what you need out of an email. And I don't trash emails. You know, you can archive them in Google. It makes it so easy. We'll talk about that in a second. I looked this morning, 472,963 emails in my Gmail. So, but not in my inbox. You know, keep your inbox clean so you can stay on top of your world, what's going on. I don't make folders. I think with Google it's kind of silly to make folders just because if I need to look like, man, Rose and I were talking about that website, I can search for Rose and the name of the website and there's all the stuff we talked about. Like, so spending the time making folders, just the seconds you spend here or there can really add up. So yeah, keep stuff cleaned out. And the one thing I've talked about this before too is send an archive in Google is the greatest thing ever. And basically this means when you send an email, you send it and it archives it in one step. Instead of sending it, take you back to the inbox, select it, and archive it. So it saves you like 5 seconds. But I talked about this feature 8 years ago. So it saves me 5 seconds an email, save 50 emails a day for 8 years. It saved me 192 hours of work from that little silly blue button, you know. It's just ridiculous how little things can really make a difference. Same with folders. You know, folders are the same idea. I could say, okay, I got this email from Rose. Let's see, should I go in website or Rose? Or just a few seconds to decide, but a few seconds times 50 a day times, like, it gets silly. So just, yeah, deal with stuff and move on.
I don't get it where you're sending it to.
So in Gmail, if you archive it, they have a section called All Messages. You can go back in there and find it, or if you search, you can find it. It's just out of your inbox, clearing your head for the day so you can stay on top of what comes in new, but yeah, I can go there, but all mail is all the email that came in. It shows it all. Or if you do folders, it's in the folder. It doesn't get rid of it. It really the way Gmail works from more of a technical standpoint, everything is all mail, and when it first comes in, it tags it as inbox. And so when you're done, you just archive it, which basically says, don't tag it as inbox anymore, you know. Keep it out of my way. But again, it's all there. If anyone ever sent me an email ever, I've got it in there to find, and it finds it pretty quick. But I can say on top of my world, you know what's going on. Yeah.
So if you have all mail already, does that mean they're being archived?
Yeah, they're in all mail. If they're not in your inbox, they're archived. If they're not in your inbox, but they are in all mail, they're archived. Yeah.
Well, they're in my, yeah, of course I didn't do it.
Right.
They're in my inbox, some of that
Everything's in all mail, whether it's in your inbox or in a folder or whatever. All mail's got everything, unless you delete it.
So if I delete it from my inbox, will
If you delete it, it deletes it. Just archive it.
I have that blue button. Is that?
You have that when you're sending a message? Yeah.
But it doesn't have that little.
That's a screenshot from a year or so ago, so they may have changed the look of it a little bit.
You may have to go in and lab.
Yeah, you may have to turn it on. I don't think it's a lab anymore. I think
What is
it may be.
The little folder?
Send and archive in one click. Instead of sending and keeping it in your inbox to deal with, it sends it and archives it and gets it out of your way.
So you have to prompt it, do something on the back.
Yeah, I think maybe you have to set that up. I can't remember. I thought they made it a native feature you could enable, but it could be in labs. We can look at that after and find it. Yeah.
I always enable it in labs, so I
Yeah.
can't remember.
Yeah, in the Gmail settings, they have a thing called Labs, where basically people that work at Google can say, I have this cool idea for Gmail, and they say, good, we'll stick it over here, and if people want to try it, they can. And that one's in there. A lot of stuff graduates from Labs and becomes normal Google stuff, but that one may be in there still. But just little things like that just make a big difference, make it good. If you want to make it even easier, and I've gone back and forth on this, and I wish Ashley were here because she loves this, but Google has a product called Inbox as well, which is a whole different product, but talks to your same email. You still talk to your Gmail email. If you archive in one, it archives in the other. But it's a whole different interface and skin, meant for people that have chaotic inboxes, I think. It's kind of groups things together. I won't get into a whole thing about that, but it's one you may want to play with because, again, you could have both loaded on your system and just try them out. And if you like one, it's not like you lose things in one if it's not in the other. So I use Inbox. Also, when I'm on vacation, I'll load Inbox on my phone just because it makes it easy to snooze emails and just do some quick dealing with. I don't like the interface as well, but when I was at Disney a few weeks ago, I loaded Inbox instead for the week, so that way I could manage things quickly on my phone. And then when I got back, I'm like, all right, now back to good old Gmail to get to work, and it's all still there. So it's worth playing with. Next time Ashley's here, you can talk to her about that, why she likes it. The thing I really love with Inbox is snoozing. So I can get an email and say, okay, I got this email from Chris. I want to deal with it, but I'm not going to get to it till tomorrow, so I can snooze it till tomorrow, and poof, it clears my inbox, and then tomorrow, at whatever time, poof, it comes back in, which is great. That's the main thing I like about Inbox. The other thing I can do is I can send an email to Chris and say, hey, I need you to let me know about this, and then I can snooze it and say, okay, bring this back up in a week, and that'll kind of like a tickler in Asana, it'll bring it back up, and I can say, oh, he still hasn't replied to that, let me go check on him. That snoozing feature is coming to normal Gmail soon as of May, and they haven't said anything else about it, so I don't know how long it really will be, but that'll be great when that comes to Gmail. Ashley happens to love the Inbox interface. It gets rid of so much junk, just kind of makes it a clean world. I think it's kind of cluttered. She thinks it's clean. Play with it and see what you think for yourself. Another tool we've used, we've been using a lot. Ashley and I are still using it. Allie's played with it. I got to get Matt to do it still. It's called Wavebox. This is a desktop application for Windows or Mac. And you can see along the side, it has all these apps that are kind of inside of it. So when you click on your mail, it opens up in there. You can kind of just work through stuff inside of that interface. Ashley likes it because it puts all her apps in one place instead of 27 icons open. I like it for the badges. So you get unread badges, like you see the little one there for email. You can put Slack in there, so you have a notification from Slack, you get a badge from that. And then you get a master badge at the bottom. So if I have 2 emails in a Slack message, I'll have a 3 sitting in my tray, so I know I've got some things to look at. So I've got it set. If I need to deal with any notification for me, it pops up in there and works well. We'll talk a little bit more about this later, but it's just a fun little Windows Mac app that just kind of, again, you can put in whatever applications you want inside of it and just have them all in one place versus having all your separate tabs. Not all that different at the end of the day, but again, I tend to miss a lot of stuff in Slack. We use Slack a ton. We'll talk more about that in a bit. And this makes it better because I get those notifications that pop up in there in red saying, hey, someone's trying to reach you on here, and I can see it pretty quick and not miss it as often. So.
Is it an app or a browser?
It's an app. It has its own version of Chrome inside of it, basically. But you have to download and install it. So it does not work on Chromebooks. But all the stuff inside of it does as separate, not anything magic there.
What's
But
the difference between doing that and just putting things in your tray icon?
you could. But again, this puts it in one icon versus separate things. And again, I like the way I like the way it summarizes all the notifications. So if one of you hits me on Slack in this channel, I have 2 Slack messages from Green Melon and an email in my personal and 2 in work. I'll get the little 6 down there like, oh man, I got some things to do because I got to deal with those notifications. I like that angle of it. Again, it's not a killer thing, but it's nice. It's a good app. It helps me out. And again, makes it so I don't miss things as often, which is kind of the goal of a lot of this. It's $19 a year, I think, for that. There's a free version that does pretty well, but if you're going to use a lot of stuff with it to make it worthwhile, you got to pay for it. So, worth looking at. Teamwork Desk. So teamwork.com is a task management system, kind of like Basecamp we've used before, and it's really a good system. We now use Asana instead, of course. But we started with Teamwork Desk a while ago, and it's their help desk software. And again, this part of the talk is about reducing your inbox, your email inbox, and where this helps us is we tell clients, hey, email support at Green Melon if you need our help. And it feeds in here, and then we have this feed whoever needs to get it. So instead of saying, gosh, I hope someone at Green Melon gets it, I'm going to email Mickey and Ashley and Allie and see. We say email support and we'll get it. And so if you email right now, Natalie will get it because she's there working. If Natalie goes on vacation, we just point this to go to me instead. You know, we can point it to whoever we need it to go to versus having to blast everyone and see who's around that day to deal with it. So it reduces emails quite a bit. Like, I don't see so much of the support stuff that goes on anymore because it goes into here and Natalie gets it and she deals with it and it's great. I don't have to get copied on stuff necessarily. But again, if she goes out of town, she's going to be on vacation, cool. We'll just adjust that and point it to Ashley or point it to me or whatever we want. And those that aren't dealing with it don't get bombarded with the other emails. And so the part of it is using that. The other part is convincing clients, like, I promise, if you email there, it's going to be faster. It's going to be better. Because if they email me right now, I'm not going to respond for a while because I'm here. But if they email support, you know, Natalie's sitting there ready to go. So works well. Lots of help desk software out there. I think Brad and GoWP use Help Scout. I think so, yeah. Lots of good ones out there. This one I like mostly because we got it early on when their pricing model wasn't quite firmed up and they had it way too cheap. We're grandfathered in at that. I think when we did it, it was free, and then free for up to 150 emails a month and like 5 cents an email after that. We never even had 150, so we haven't paid anything for it ever. Even now, though, it's pretty cheap. I'm thinking like $10. You know, it's not bad. If you don't have a team, it doesn't help. But even if it's just a few of you can help, you can say, hey, I'm the one that's going to take care of the client request today because you're busy, and you can, again, not be getting CC'd on everything and piling up your inbox with stuff. Slack, we've talked about a bit. And we have our Slack team for this that we don't use a lot yet, but hopefully we will. But Green Melon, we use it a ton. You know, between the 7 of us, I looked at the day, I think we've had 28,000 messages in there. Just stuff. A lot of coffee talk, you know, just kind of fun, hanging out. Not a lot of work stuff necessarily, but it does cut down on emails because instead of saying, me emailing Matt saying, hey, what's going on? Do you have that thing? I can hit him a message on Slack and say, hey, what's going on? It doesn't reduce conversation per se, but it keeps the inbox a little cleaner. And actually for us, we use Google Hangouts a lot too for that kind of quick stuff, and now we use Slack instead of Google Hangouts because Google's seemingly abandoning Hangouts, which is a shame. And it also ties well into Zoom for video chat. We'll talk about Zoom in a little bit. I know a lot of you use Zoom, and their integration with Slack is nice. Anytime I want, I can pop down to like the private channel, like with Matt, if we were both working from home or something, and I can type /Zoom, and it'll message him saying, hey, Mickey wants to video chat. We both click it, and we're chatting, and it works well. Again, not that different than Hangouts, but just trying to consolidate tools a little bit. Does a nice job. And we're on the free version of this too. There's a paid version that's not too bad, but the free one does most of what we need. The paid one, I think, is like $6 per user per month, so we go from 0 to like $45 a month, and I don't see the benefit to that yet, but great application. And then Asana, again, you know, we talked about Asana before and how it helps with, you know, the lead tracking. Also helps a lot with email. You know, we cut down on so many emails because we deal with stuff in here versus emailing each other and seeing what's going on. It can happen in here. What really sold me on the new version of Asana when they brought it out like a year ago was the conversations, the way they handle the chat stuff. It's not just simple chat here. You have chat-wide stuff about whole projects. I mean, it's really impressive the way you can chat with each other in there. And then inside of any comment box, any chat box, you can hit @ and link to another person, link to a project. You know, the other day, Allie assigned me something, and I wrote back and said, @Allie, I've already taken care of this in this project, and put and whatever the task was, and linked to it. She'd say, oh, there already was a task. You know, we dealt with it all there, move on with our life, saves a few emails. Again, doesn't necessarily save the work, because you're still dealing with the conversations one way or another, but keeping our inbox more freed up for seeing what clients have coming in, and Asana works well there. Yeah.
It seems like you got multiple tools that do similar things here.
Correct, yes.
Do you ever find, or ask the question, are we wasting more time deciding this should be an Asana chat or a Slack chat or
Yep, that's a good question, yes.
Or Hangout or a Facebook message or...
Yep. That's a great question, yeah.
How do you
All right, we fought with that over the years. That's a great question. So, yeah.
Can I answer that question? So I have
Yeah.
a question. Do you find yourself mostly doing one of these programs or
Gotcha. So so good question. You guys hear what he said there? Okay, and that is a challenge. So for us, Asana is where all the projects live. If you have a question about a project, ask it in there because we want the record of it in there. We want it in there. Slack is mostly water cooler. It's mostly, hey, what are we doing for lunch today? Ooh, that chicken soup you made last night sounds good. Oh, I can't believe Michigan got killed by Penn State. Just mostly just fun, just team building kind of things. And again, Asana is where the projects live, and then email just becomes kind of what's left over. So it's pretty clear usually. If I have a question from Matt, if it's about a project, I'll go in there. So that way again, if we go look back later, we'll see it. If I have a question from Matt about, what's the new time tracking software you're looking at, that might just be a hangout. So we've sort of cleared it up internally over the years, but it's been a challenge, and that's where Hangouts was tough because for a while we had Slack, and we also had Hangouts, and they were both kind of casual. So we said the one thing with Hangouts we need video. So once we got Zoom into Slack, we said cool, no more Hangouts, don't use that at all. And that's helped narrow it down a bit. But
do all of these have records, historical records?
To some, Slack has the least because you have to pay for the historical record. We only get to see the last 10,000 messages in Slack unless you pay for it.
Oh.
I know, but with 28,000, it'd be nice to say, oh, remember that thing you posted 2 years? Oh, it's gone. But yeah, it's not worth paying for. Asana, yes, has historical record. And really the tricky part we have is not with those tools, but it's Asana versus Google Drive. And we'll talk about Drive in a bit. But Drive's where, I'll get you in a sec. Drive's where all of our documents live for clients. So we have a folder we call Josh Erickson that has here's your credentials and here's what we said we do and here's the contract you signed and all that. That lives forever. Asana, when we finish the project, we archive it and it's essentially gone. So long-term things, we want to keep a record of your contract, keep a record of here's where his Facebook account is or whatever. That lives in Drive. So we do get a little bit of that, okay, we have notes from this meeting. Do we put them in Asana so we can deal with them, or do we want to keep the notes forever and they go in Drive? And that's one we still struggle with a little bit. There's advantages both ways. Yeah, what were you going to say?
Being the rookie, the moment of clarity, because there are a lot of communications channels, was Slack is vapor. Slack is said, and then you kind of forget about it. It's an instant direct message. There you go. Asana, if it's anything project related, or there's a chance that the customer might see it, it goes in there. And then email is just kind of a standard mode of conversation. And that's really the primary three that you
Yeah. But then again, Drive to save meeting notes and stuff gets a little, kind of messes with it a bit.
So do you guys ever save the link from Drive and just paste it into Asana?
We do sometimes, yeah.
Okay.
And it has good integration with that, so we do sometimes. But Asana's just so much easier just while you're taking notes in a meeting, you can do it here and assign tasks. And the other thing I was going to say, I guess, with conversations in Asana is in a comment thread, you can actually start a task in there, which is brilliant. So again, it's almost handy to take meeting notes in there, but then as you parse through them, they kind of disappear as people finish things. And it's nice to say, but here's all the notes we had. So it's that I don't have a great answer for, but we tend to do meeting notes in Google Drive, mostly because of the real-time communication. If you've ever been in a Google Doc with other people, it's just so crazy brilliant where you can see each other typing. And so in a meeting with a client, we'll typically have 2 or 3 of us open to the same document. So I can be taking notes while Allie's talking, and then I'll start talking and she'll jump in, and we can have one concise set of notes in there. So usually it falls there, but there is a bit of overlap that's...
So you said when Asana, when you finish a task, it goes away?
Right, and you can find it technically, but really it's gone, yeah. Right.
One of the things I do for my clients is sometimes when they check it, they want to see a record of what's been done, is you can do a zap from Asana to a Google Sheet and
interesting, okay.
completed tasks just entered into the spreadsheet.
Oh, interesting. Okay, so so you use Zapier. We talked a little bit beforehand with some of you, but so you can set that up saying every time I complete a task in Asana within this project, I'm guessing you'd set it as add it to this document, and then we just keep a running task. Okay, that's pretty cool.
Yeah, because we've got a client who's got
Zapier.
Zapier?
Yeah. There's Zapier and there's IFT, IFTTT. They're both just connection tools. They say every time I tweet, take a copy of it and put it on Facebook. Or every time I post on Facebook, send it to email my wife with a copy of it. Or I have one every time I check in on Foursquare, it puts it on a Google Calendar entry for me on a hidden calendar so I can see history of where I've been. Lots of neat ones. And one is every time I check off a task in this Asana project, take a copy of that and put it in this Google spreadsheet. So that's pretty cool. I like that.
It's because that way the employee can know this is everything I did this month.
Right. Okay. Yes. I like that. Very cool. Zapier. And then the other one is IFTTT. If this, then that is what that is.
All this technology on tracking, project management, CRM, and everything, do you find that it's more complicated to get things going? Streamlines everything?
Good question.
It's like, you do this here, do that there, and it's like overly complicating something that's simple.
Right, well, that's why I like Asana.
Years, you know?
Gotcha. That's why I like Asana instead of Teamwork. Because Teamwork has even more features and whistles and reports and stuff, and it became too complicated. Asana makes it so easy. Literally, if I want to add a new task, I just go in here and press enter and type in a new task and move on with my life. And so Asana makes it pretty quick to get up and going. And for us, we use their templates. Matt's been building out those more for us. So we say, hey, we just signed Josh, we're going to build a new website. Bloop, there's our template for building the site. And then we say, but he also needed, we'll fine tune it in there. He also needed keyword research and whatever. But, it's set up in a matter of minutes. It's already assigned to people. It does pretty good. But we're careful of that, though, because Teamwork did some cool stuff. Teamwork.com does some neat stuff. But if I said real quick, oh, Matt just wanted me to do that one thing, I don't want to forget, let me put it in Teamwork. Well, a task has to go inside of a task list, has to go inside of a project, has to go inside of a client. Whereas Asana didn't have to go into any of that. I can go to my home page and say, here's a new task. Doesn't have to be assigned to anything. It's just sitting there for me and makes it quick and easy to do that kind of stuff. But we are cognizant of that. Both of these are issues that we deal with a lot because but we're getting there. And that's where, Tool Man back there has been helping make it better and worse. So, yeah. But
I think that's the hardest part is just researching everything and figuring out which one you want to use. 'Cause
right.
There's so many options.
And the conventional wisdom is find one that works well enough and just go with it, which I'm so bad about. So I want to find the next one that's 2% better.
Just a couple thoughts.
Yeah.
One, don't develop the shiny object syndrome.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. I struggle with that,
Yeah,
certainly.
So the other thing is, look at the old 80-20 rule. Look at what do you want, the 80%, and then the 20% is superfluous.
Right.
What does it take to really get your business and do things?
Exactly. Yep.
And forget the rest.
And that's that's what led us from Teamwork back to Asana. Teamwork did much, but so much was fringe stuff we didn't do. Let's just get us tasks. Just give me an easy way to get tasks in and get done. And excellent point. Shiny object syndrome is a big problem of mine, though. So,
Me too.
but it's fun. But and that's Matt has the same problem, so it's not good. We all have this.
I go by the output over input
There you go.
formula, which if anybody was listening to the last.
There you go. Yep, you can watch that. Yeah, it's on the site. All right, so education. So as I'm sure you know, we're big on education. We train all our clients and stuff. We love educating, talking to y'all and learning from you guys, but also for ourselves. So this is mostly how we educate ourselves and keep us up to date on stuff and tools we use. Some of these you've heard of before, some maybe not. I'll dig deeper into a few. So Feedly is my biggest. I love Feedly. Like Google Reader years ago, you can take any website, any blog essentially, and put it in there. And so instead of having to go out and say, I wonder if he blogged today, I wonder if he blogged today, I wonder if that news is there, it all just comes to you in one place. And you can add so much stuff to it. We'll talk numbers on that in a minute, but it's nice just to go and say, here's all the stuff that's going on, read through it, share it, print it, whatever you want to do with it, learn what you want to learn from it and move on with your day. Works well as, of course, a website app and a mobile app. I use it a lot. I use it more than people should, probably, but it works well. But the beautiful thing with Feedly is RSS. RSS is a dying thing. It's not nearly as cool as it used to be, and it was never really all that cool to begin with. But it's still so useful. There's so much stuff you can throw into something like Feedly. Things like, the main one is every blog you can find. Say, I want to keep with Linda's blog. She has some good stuff. I don't know how often she'll post. Cool. Pull it into Feedly. If she posts, it shows up. If she doesn't, I'm not wasting any time because I'm not going out there to say, no new post today. No, it just comes when it's there.
Will it also kick it over to your inbox, or does it keep it out of your inbox?
Keeps it out of here. It's just in Feedly, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't have email, because you can set up stuff to go to your email. A lot of people say, I want to follow that blog on email, which is fine, but I don't follow any blogs by email. I let it come in here instead when I have time. So my emails, again, trying to keep it a little more freed up for stuff. Like all our kids' teachers have blogs. They all, Cobb County does a lot of WordPress.com stuff for the school system, so I've always had that. So all the kids' blogs in there. Sprayberry has all their sports stuff. My daughter wants to play soccer there, so I get all the sports scores coming into Feedly if I want. Podcasts you could follow through there if you want. We'll talk better ways to handle that in a bit. Blog comment feeds. I have a few of our blogs. I make sure if anyone comments, I have it come in there just in case they commented on one of Brooks' post or something. I didn't see it. I'll still get a feed of all the comments on Green Melon just so I happen to catch it. And then things like deep searches on Craigslist. If you ever do a search on Craigslist for iPhone 8 in Atlanta, you do the search and see it. At the very bottom, there's a feed icon. Add that into Feedly. Every time someone posts something that matches that search, it shows up. And if you look for that orange icon, you'll still see it a good bit and can throw some cool stuff in there. What they've added recently that's even better is Feedly Teams, which is, actually I should go back. Feedly is free. They have a paid version for $5 a month, which you probably don't need. I never paid for that. I kind of wanted to support them, but I never needed it. Feedly Teams you do have to pay for, but it's brilliant. The pricing is a little nuts. It's $18 per user per month, so suddenly we're paying $100 a month for it, which is, again, it's one of those things. It's more than it should be, but I'm willing to pay it, so it must be a fair market price. Is that kind of thing. What's neat with that is you can have team feeds. So I have my feeds at the top with Sprayberry sports and that kind of stuff. But then our team feeds, we've broken into a bunch of categories for CSS and some of our clients in business and tech and social media. And if any of us finds a cool new blog, we can add it to that feed, and all the rest of us that subscribe to that get it, which is kind of cool. So we can all work together to build up that list of resources. Works very well. And then you have boards as well, kind of like Pinterest, where you can pin things to a board. If you see something cool in Feedly, say, ooh, the team should see this. You could email it to all of them. You could put it on Slack. We do different ways there. Again, we don't have a consistent way to do that. But you can also add it to a board. And the two we use a lot are the blog ideas and the podcast ideas. Brooke's doing a great job with Feedly in finding ideas for our blog, but also helping me find ideas for the podcast. So on Friday, tomorrow I'll go in and say, okay, what podcast ideas do we have this week? I added some, Brooke added some, but as she's reading, she'll say, ooh, Google added this cool new thing Mickey should talk about in the podcast. Pin it to that board. And then Friday, I'll pull up that board, read through all the stuff in there, slowly clear it out, add it to the podcast, and have a fresh go next week. So the team feature is pretty cool. The problem is there's a lot going on with it. Even if you kind of minimize, there's still a lot going. Allie's struggle, and I think Ashley to some degree too, she's been getting better, is that they forget about it for a week and then go in and there's like 500 unread posts. I mean, if you're going to do it, you got to stay on it every day, and I'm in there, 2 or 3 times a day probably, just making sure I keep it to 0 and save things later. I'll show you where, if I see something cool, I have places I put that to deal with at a different time so I can work through. Just some stats I looked at that I thought would be kind of fun to look at. So my personal one, I follow 52 blogs, and it tells you how many entries a month on average they have, so 1,100 entries a month. Our team one has 298 blogs in it for design, and for a lot of you are probably in there and that sort of thing. 1,300 entries a month. So that's a total of 350 blogs, 2,400 entries a month, and 83 a day, which 83 a day adds up real fast if you miss it for a couple days. One thing we did, though, is there are a couple blogs that are just killer. There's Lifehacker and TechCrunch and some of those that post dozens a day. So we made one, I think you can see it, yeah, Tech Active. I put all those guys in one, and so most of the team doesn't subscribe to that one, and it cuts their feed load like in half. If you take out the active, it goes, you lose 59 blogs, but it cuts the number of entries like by 2/3. It makes it a lot more manageable. So Allie and them subscribe to that one. So that's 25 a day. They get all the cool stuff. They get most of the CSS things and design and all that, but it's not as overwhelming. So playing with it's been kind of fun. The team thing's neat. It's overpriced, but we pay it, so it is what it is. Let's see. It's hard to say. I mean, well, there's some big ones like Managed WP that we pay like $300 a month for because we have hundreds of sites in there to manage sites.
Just for internal purposes, not
yeah.
between you guys and the clients.
Gotcha. I mean, take that maybe. How many?
About that.
A dozen that add up to maybe $400 a month.
That's not bad, though.
I mean, I'm thinking, yeah, because like we don't pay for Slack, we do pay for Asana. Asana's I think $50 a month for us. Google Suite is $5 per user, so it's $35 a month. This is pushing $100. One more I'll talk about for calendaring pushes $100 a month, and that's about. Then there's time tracking tools and some of that come and go. But I'd say $400 a month. I should know that number. As a business owner, I totally should know. Like on Shark Tank, like you know your numbers.
That's just operational.
Yeah, just
operational. Like software suite.
Right, and there's not much software. This is most of the software. The only thing we have other than this is Creative Cloud for the designers, but that's it. I mean, I don't. Yeah, so. That'd be good for me to, yeah. We look at that from time to time. We look at it kind of in aggregate with all our expenses. It'd be nice to pull those out and say, of Mickey's tools and toys, how much is that? And it's really not too bad. Yeah.
I went down this path once, and I ended up going back to Outlook. And
okay.
The reason why is I've used Outlook.
Going back where?
I mean to Microsoft Office.
Okay.
Now, I got a lot of issues with Microsoft, don't get me wrong. But bottom line is, maybe it's because I know the ins and outs of it so well over the years. I found out there are very few hurdles I've had with that I can't get over by learning more or creative use of the tools.
Yep.
Of course, I still have this issue with Apple and Microsoft interoperability. They just refuse to cooperate with each other.
Yeah.
But, so I'm wondering if, I'm listening to this stuff and I say, okay, I've got these different apps. Like I went to Todoist for
okay,
Doodlist.
that's a solid one, yeah.
But you know what I found out? I get into stuff, gathers up, and it's not in the main line of things, and it's one window that I go through for everything, because I could have done it by creative use of calendaring or project or some of the other tools in here, and so this is I'm just kind of sharing, this is a paradigm I go through, and every once in a while I'll drift off and I'll try these individual apps. But now, I listen to stuff, and I'm not pushing back on this,
Yeah.
but what I've found is, particularly since I subscribed to a Microsoft Exchange through GoDaddy, it's just like the path of least resistance, and I don't have to deal with it. So
And knowing the tools that well helps a lot too. It's ones
Right.
you've used for 20 years, that makes a big difference. So I can see that. For me, Office they're getting better with their Office 365, but again, I go from a desktop at home to a desktop at work to various laptops on the go. I want something that's web-based that I can just pull up and use wherever. And then for us, it's the sharing features inside of Google Drive that make it, I think, are far superior to what Microsoft has for now. But if you're a one-man show, it's,
I use both, and I use OneDrive, I use Dropbox, because some places Dropbox, because of who you have to work with.
Yeah, we use Dropbox for clients.
And since I subscribe to it through GoDaddy, Office 365 is available everywhere. It just pops up as
and it's coming along pretty well, yeah.
Right.
Yeah, Office 365 turns. No, that's worth, that's worth a lot. Yeah.
It's kind of to his point. I think it's kind of like you get a certain point. It's like when is good enough good enough?
Right.
Right. Yes. Yeah.
And really for us, it's
perfect is the enemy of good. You know?
Yeah.
I was gonna say this question for them, but I'm jumping right now. So like, on that mothership and everything else,
right,
that we were talking about earlier. So on the everything else, do you find that when you guys are switching between one and the other, or when you're upgrading, or when you're changing out vendors, it's because somebody else came up with something cooler, or because they dropped the ball and the cord is falling off, or the
Gotcha.
isn't doing what you needed to do?
So the trust is one thing a little bit. Any of these systems, if you read like Getting Things Done by David Allen, it's all about trusting your systems. You're not gonna, if you can't trust what you put in it, that kills it. So if something starts breaking on it, or so they get hacked, or if that's big. But typically, it kind of goes back to his point, where we sort of say, all right, we have all these systems. This new one doesn't do it as good, but it does them all in one place. So let's go that way. And then we get there like, but it doesn't do any of them as good. Like, so I was hoping Lori Newman would be here. She had that new one. I think you were talking with her on Facebook. Plutio, yeah, that does like everything all in one, which is so compelling, but I'm guessing it's not quite as good at any of those things. And so it's
they've got a roadmap, so really we've invested in that because it was a lifetime license.
Okay.
And so we're just kind of holding and watching it develop.
Right.
I think she's already migrated all the way over to it.
Yeah.
But I'm still like in Asana.
Right, and that's the thing. The task management's going to be good, but Asana's better. The invoice will be good, but FreshBooks is better. And so we struggle with that, and that's kind of to his point. And really, that's where we go. Is we kind of we said, if we go to Teamwork, we were with Asana for a while and went to Teamwork for a while because we said, Teamwork does more. We can consolidate a few tools into there. But then, like we were talking about earlier, it's just such a pain in the butt just to add a task. And so then we sort of broken it back apart. And really, with what Asana's done in the last 6 months or so, we're not moving from there probably anytime in the near future, just because they've added some neat things we really needed. But it is a struggle. It's really, so for us, it's let's combine these three things in one, and then like, gosh, now they're all worse than they were, but it's in one place. It's, let me get Rose. Yeah.
You use these because you're interfacing with Apple and all.
Right, that too, yeah.
And all that, right? I mean, you need something that's going to work.
Right, it needs to work cross-platform and mobile and
All that stuff.
that's an important aspect for
I
us.
can understand using one system like you're using, but I think if you're using.
Well, actually, I ended up going across multiple systems, and what got me locked in was with GoDaddy as my host of my 360 account. If obviously you get more power if you're in the native Windows operating system, but no matter, as long as I can get to a web browser, I can bring up
365 does a good job of that now.
Office 365 with SharePoint, all the stuff that goes along with it, and the online Word and Excel and whatever are a bit limited, but they're not so limited for what I may do on the go.
Yeah.
I can live with it and then get back and refine it when I get back to my desktop.
Yeah, and Office 365 is good. I think for us, Google did all that stuff first, and so we've grown into that ecosystem instead, whereas if we started today, we'd probably look closer and maybe go that route.
Also, I work in some area in financial industry, and a lot of things are very secure, and Office 365, they allow me to go to SharePoint. Now, I go to Google. Since it's shared, it gets locked out if I'm on my company computer.
Oh, interesting.
I mean, or the computer that's issued to me.
Right,
I don't know if you know this, but with the G Suites now, you can request HIPAA compliance, and they'll give you a business certificate, which has that same level of security that you need for that. But it's on request. It's by request only.
Okay.
Interesting.
Is there a fee for it?
No.
Okay.
No.
I'll remember that. Thank you.
Cool. And then
Just a quick question. When you say Asana and Teamwork, and how you said people, client can email into support,
right,
whatever,
correct,
and it creates a ticket.
Yep.
So does Asana do anything.
We don't have them email into either. Even when we had Teamwork, there was teamwork.com for our tasks and the Teamwork desk for the tickets.
Okay.
And they sort of integrated. We kept them separate. Like we don't let our clients in any of the systems like Asana or any of that stuff. And there's arguments both ways. Our thought is most of our clients say, I just want to email you when I want stuff. I don't want to log into a thing and do a ticket. Like, let me just email
Every
you.
client in the world.
Right, exactly. So we support it. It takes more work for us. You know, like
Right.
I wish Aaron was here because Sideways 8, they make people log into their, I think, they use Teamwork. They make them log in there and do stuff. And there's advantages there too, but for us, we take on the extra burden, which is more work for us and, you know, fewer clients we can handle so they can just work by email to make clients work as easy as they can. We take on the burden of doing more work to deal with it via email and then put it in Asana and, you know, so.
So to your
There you go.
statement, where, oh yeah, we got all three here, but it don't do it as well as if we just had them separate and had boutique a la carte options. Which one has the greatest impact on revenue?
Right.
You
That's
having them
in workflow. Yeah, this one doesn't work as well, but if they're separate, there could be more. Yeah, looking at Zapier and doing things. Yeah, they may not play together as nice. So yeah, it's tough in every situation to sort that out. So like for us, like in Teamwork, the one thing they had was they had the tasks and time tracking together, very well done. And so when we moved to Asana, those are separate pieces, and it's kind of a pain in the butt. But we get more value from Asana being so fast at tasks and stuff and saving us hours and hours that it's worth the little extra burden to have separate time tracking. And it's really trial and error. I can't remember who I was talking to, and maybe it was at WordCamp, about the grass is greener. And a lot of these tools, I've used it for a while and said, oh, that one looks better. And I go over there and I'm like, nope, the first one was the way I want to be. Like Asana was one of those I left and as soon as we were on Teamwork, we stayed with it for a while. We'll get used to it, and we all just pined to go back to Asana. We did. It was like, oh, we're back. And the same with Contactually. I used Contactually for years, and like, Close looks really pretty over there. I'm going to go try Close. As soon as I go, I'm like, nope, I was right. I was right the first time. And that's what a lot of mine is just trial and error and realizing I was right all along. And I suspect we have the same with Office 365. I mean, it's a fine product, but I bet, it does the other thing go over. I was like, gosh, but I miss Google Docs for this and the other thing. And even though this does other, it's tough. I don't have a great answer for all that, but just kind of showing how we got to where we are with our stuff.
Feedly also is it strictly blogs or if you've got some email accounts.
Mm-hmm.
Not email accounts, but people that you get a lot of stuff from. You don't want to cut them off, but you want to get it out of your regular email.
Right.
Is Feedly a good source of picking that up, or do I have to go back and create a rule?
I'd create a rule probably just to put them into a folder on the side of
you
your.
can't route it to Feedly.
I don't think you can. Can you put email on
From email account.
It can do some stuff with social. It may be able to, but
if you link it with Zapier, the transition from email to
RSS
would make it insecure. So people could possibly find your RSS feed and read it there, but I bet I could do it.
Yeah, I think the issue would be in Feedly, in theory, I go into Feedly, and it's just chronological. Here's what's new, and I start reading through everything, just in the order it came in. In that case, you want to tuck it off to the side with a rule and only deal with it every other Thursday. You don't want it. It'd still be popping up in your face then every day if you did that. So even if you could, I don't think that'd be a good thing to do.
Okay.
I'd be inclined to put in a rule and just make a little task. Every Thursday, go check that silly folder and see what those people send me versus having it come up every day. Every time you go into Feedly, there's all their stuff in your face. Pocket Casts, so podcasts are another place. Of course, we get lots of education. The software itself is relatively unimportant. I'm probably one of the few in here that use Pocket Casts. But if you use iTunes or whatever, certainly use podcasting software. I've been listening to a lot more lately. For a while, and it's ridiculous to say, I almost wished I had a longer commute so I could listen to podcasts. I always said, my commute's too short. I can't listen to any podcasts. And finally I said, I'll get over it. It's only 15 minutes, but I can still listen for 15 minutes. And then when I get back in the car in the afternoon, I hit rewind like 30 seconds to remember where it was. And it works pretty well. I should have done it long ago. So here's some of the podcasts I listen to. We'll super quick go through them just because they're pretty good. A lot of these are focused on agencies, some are focused on freelancers. I found it really doesn't matter. The lessons are the same, whether they say, here's how you should sell websites as an agency, and here's how you should manage things as a freelancer. It's the same kind of lesson. So Donald Miller, Story Brand, great for storytelling and learning stuff there. Build a Better Agency with Drew McClellan. I have a ton of notes on that. It's nice when I'm driving in the car, I'll hit that little button on remote to talk, and I'll save stuff in Google Keep. We'll talk about it later. I'll say, note to self, look up that thing Drew talked about. Oh, note to self, look at this other thing Drew said. And, when I got home from Birmingham WordCamp, I had done so many notes, my Keep was full of all these little things I said to my car on the way home. It was great. Duct Tape Marketing, another good just marketing podcast. Tech Talk Y'all, Adam Walker, the guy at Sideways 8 that works with Aaron, him and Sanjay's podcast, talking about not web stuff particularly, just fun, more amusing 30-minute stuff about tech, about what different companies are up to with rockets and just random fun stuff. Working Without Pants is, freelancers, you work at home without pants. It's actually a great podcast, has a lot of good stuff. Real Relationships, it's the CEO Contactually that leads that, talking about how building relationships can help and tips and tools and ideas. WP Builds, a lot of people listen to, has just a good WordPress focused one, random things. Soul of Enterprise is very much about sales and value pricing and gets a little heady and a little off track at times, but it's good okay. Agency Advantage is more just a general, they just use agency with hiring and firing and all that. Businessology is the one that looks like a butterfly. A good one, just talking to agency owners, just saying, hey, how'd you grow? Where were your struggles? Just interesting things going on there. And I'll put out slides this afternoon. But you're welcome to take pictures of it. But I'll put out the slides this afternoon. Post Status, Brian Krogsgaard. He's spoken at WordCamp Atlanta a few times. Was the keynote in Birmingham. Just his WordPress state of the world whenever he feels like writing. Ours at the Brighter Web. All need to listen to that. The Way I Heard It with Mike Rowe has nothing to do with tech stuff, but just a fun. It's like Paul Harvey, the rest of the story type stories. He'll tell a weird story about this guy in Germany, and turns out it's this big celebrity you knew. It's just kind of fun little ones, like 8 minutes every week. Malcolm Gladwell's Revisionist History is between seasons again, but that one's neat. Again, not tech focused really, but just neat stories. Again, similar to Mike Rowe almost, where he talked about historical events and how you got them all wrong. The one that got me hooked was all about Wilt Chamberlain and how for one season he shot free throws underhanded. And that was an awesome one. It was way higher shooting percentage, but then he decided he was a sissy and stopped doing it and cost himself 5,000 points over the course of his career. And so many guys in the NBA now, you can see all these big guys, if they would just do it underhand, they'd be so valuable, and instead they have to yank them out because they get hacked at the end. And it was a great one. He also got into that one, not to get too off track, but talking about how statistically you should go for it on fourth down every time in football, and the way you should draft differently. It was just fascinating podcast, lots of stuff. Reply All. A tech-focused, weird, random, kind of fun podcast. WP Innovator, just your standard, here's some WordPressy fun stuff. How I Built It is talking to people that built cool things, usually with WordPress, and how they did it, where they came up with the idea, what tools they used. The Matt Report from Matt Medeiros, just, again, a WordPress-focused one. So lots of good podcasts. Again, we'll post the slides so you can see all that stuff. Lots of good stuff. I try to listen to as many as I can. Some of these I'm 20 episodes behind on, but it's just fun. I picked my few favorites. Like The Way I Heard It, so easy and quick, it stays at the top because he has a new one I listen to it. Others, like Matt Report and How I Built It are pretty long, in depth. Like it takes a while to get through them anyhow, so they tend to stack up a little more. But it's fun. I've been trying to do more podcasts. So.
Okay, Mickey's not paying me for this, but I listen to a Brighter Web because it's short, like 3 minutes.
5 to 6, yeah.
I'm sorry, I'm just kidding.
You're all right.
6 minutes, goes by quickly, learn a lot, and I'm going to make a plug. Go to iTunes and do a review.
Yeah, that'd be great. Yeah, we'd appreciate that. Yeah.
He teaches us all so much. It's like the least we can do, go to iTunes, click on the Brighter Web, review and ratings. It does mean a lot to the podcast to have.
Yeah, it helps a lot with getting it seen. So thank you.
Anyway,
Yeah.
Sorry, I didn't mean
No,
to-
I appreciate that. No, that's good. Thank you. Lots of good podcasts though. Pocket, not related to Pocket Casts at all, but just Pocket. How many of you guys use Pocket? Okay, not as many as I thought. But just
Is it an app?
yeah, it's an app and a website and stuff. It's a Chrome extension. Basically, if you see anything cool you want to save on the web, throw it in Pocket. So I use this in conjunction with Feedly. If I'm reading in Feedly, I don't want to spend I'm trying to usually knock out my Feedly, get it back down to 0. But if I see something cool, like, ooh, this is a great thing I want to really dig into later, I'll throw it in Pocket. And then when I have free time, I'll pull up Pocket and kind of dig into some of those things. So you can see some of the ones I have there. A lot of talks from WordPress. I subscribe to WordPress TV, so all the new talks that go on WordPress TV come through my Feedly. I'll say, ooh, that one sounds cool, and that one sounds cool. And so suddenly I have a dearth of 30-minute videos I got to dig through at some point. It's going to take hours, but it's nice to have it all in one place there just for things I want to dig into. And again, they have a great mobile app and a great Chrome extension, so if I'm on my phone or desktop and I see something, I can throw it in Pocket and then just kind of keep moving on with my day for now. The brain tools, I've talked about Anki before. I still love Anki for memorization stuff. I have a variety of different decks I've built over the years for memorizing different numbers and quotes and Bible stuff and people and trying to learn Spanish and just random things. The way Anki works, it has a mobile app and desktop app and all that, is you put in a card, it'll pop up the card and say, what is that? I'm very impressed if anyone knows what country this is.
Vatican?
Scandinavia.
Yugoslavia. Norway.
Brooklyn.
So Slovakia. And so if you knew it, so the idea with this, if you know it, you can say, cool, I got it, good. Or I know that one, I've had it all, it's easy. Or I didn't get it right, and it'll bring it back to you again. And the idea is spaced repetition. It works great. The thing I use this most for is faces, trying to memorize faces. We talked about this before, where Kathy Druin does a great job of this. You know, she does her little, and she's so good at that, and I'm bad about that, so I just put people in here. Micah's a great example, because he's a guy, I totally need to know his name, but I only see him like once a year, so it's very easy to forget. So he'll pop up in here, and the idea with Anki is, as you get something right, it'll ask me, who is this? I say Micah. Tomorrow I'll say, who is this? I'll say Micah. Then it's like a week, it'll say, who is this? I say Micah. Then it's a month, and it kind of spaces it out further, and there's a lot of science behind how that works.